Hello, everybody. Okay, this is lesson 6, so Unit 10, Day 6, and we're talking about simple interest. This is something that is probably new for all of you, but I know you're going to like this lesson because I really like this lesson. You're welcome. Okay, so your learning target today is I can use simple interest formula to determine the amount of interest earned. Well, let's talk about what interest means really quickly. So I know some of you probably get an allowance maybe, or you have some money. Maybe you get some for your birthday or something. So when you take your money and you invest it into an account with simple interest, you will earn extra money. And it grows over time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and fill in this first box. Carl just turned 13 and is now old enough to open a savings account. Previously, he used a piggy bank to save his money. Consider the advantages and disadvantages to using a savings account over a piggy bank. Well, the first one is that if you use a savings account, you get to earn interest. So savings account earns you interest. That just means it earns you extra money that grows over time. And another thing with a savings account is instead of a piggy bank, it's a little bit more difficult to get your money out of. Sorry if you can't read my handwriting. More difficult to get your money out of. Kind of harder work. With a piggy bank, it does not earn you interest. So I'm just going to put no interest. And money is at home with you if you need it right then and there. And I'm just shortening everything to make your lesson shorter. Okay, so next part of our lesson talks about simple interest. Simple interest is interest earned only on the principal or the original amount deposited in the account. It is earned over a period of time and is written as a percentage. Right now, this might sound like just a bunch of random words, but we'll talk about that using this equation right here that I'm putting a star next to. I equals P times R times T. So what we're going to be learning about is this entire formula, So if you use this formula, you'll be able to do all of your homework for today. Here's what we have. Interest, that means extra money that you earn just by tucking away your money into a savings account. So you will earn money. So the interest you earn is equal to the principal. P stands for principal. That means the amount of money that you put in to start off. And you get to pick how much. Let's say you put in $50. That's your principal. So you put in $50. You're going to times that by your rate. So let's say an interest rate of like 4%. You need to put that in as a decimal. So R is going to stand for the word rate. And rate, we're going to put right here. It's always as a decimal. I don't know why that just erased. And then the letter T stands for time. And when we talk about the amount of time you have your money in your account, we're always going to talk about time in terms of years. All right, so let's actually put what we're talking about into play. Use the simple interest formula, that's this one right here, to determine the amount of interest earned. Then find the total value of the account, assuming no other deposits or withdrawals were made. This means you put money in. Withdrawals means you take money out. So a $900 deposit, I'm right here on question number 1. A $900 deposit for 20 years at a simple interest rate of 4%. We need to use that equation. Interest equals the principal times the rate in a decimal times the time in years. So here's what we put. My principal is $900. The rate is 4%. But 4% in a decimal, you're going to take the percent and move it 2 places to the left. So now that means I have 0.04. So I'm going to say 900 times 0.04 times T. What is our time? The time that your money is going to be in there is for 20 years. So I'm going to put 20. So let's go ahead and plug this into our calculators. 900 times 0.04 times 20 years, that is going to give us our interest. And I type that in my calculator and I get $720. So if you were to put $900 into an account for 20 years and you earn $720, what's your total value now? In order to get that, we have to do the amount you put in plus the amount you earned over that 20 years. So 900 plus 720 gives us $1,620. So that would be your answer. Let's go ahead and do question number 2. A $5,600 deposit for 45 years at a simple interest rate of 3%. Once again, we just have to use our equation. The interest rate, or the interest, equals the principal times the rate times the time in terms of years. So our principal was $5,600. Our rate is 3%. If you were to take 3% and turn that into a decimal, you would move your decimal 2 places to the left, so 0.03. So I'm going to say 5,600 times 0.03 times, how many years is that money in the account for? 45 years. So let's go ahead and do this math. Type this in your calculator. 5,600 times 45 times 0.03, that's going to give us our interest. And we will get 7,560. Now to get the total value, we need to add $5,600 plus 7,560. And if we add those two together, we get $13,000, 160. All right, next question, which is number 3. Danielle borrows $2,500 from the bank at 6% simple interest for 5 years. How much is Danielle going to pay in interest? So once again, we need to figure out what I is going to be. Here's our equation. Interest equals principal times the rate in terms of decimal times time in terms of years. Well, our principal is $2,500. The rate, 6%. If we put that into a decimal, that would be 0.06. So I'm going to do 2,500 times 0.06 times however many years. We have 5 years. Well, if I type all of those in my calculator, 2,500 times 0.06 times 5, that gives me $750. So that's my answer. That's how much interest would be paid to Danielle. That's how much she would have to pay. Okay, question number 4 says, Terry invests $6,000 in a CD, so that's the principal, at an annual interest rate of 7%, so that is 0.07. What will his investment be worth at the end of 6 months? So the time, we said T stands for time. Time is always in terms of years, but they only gave us months. They gave us 6 months. Well, 6 months is half of a year. So we're going to times this by half, or 0.5. You could say 1/2 if you want. That's totally fine. Now, what does that give us? I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm using our equation. Interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. And if I do 6,000 times 0.07 times 1/2, or 0.5, I'm going to get $210. $210. So the question was, what will his investment be worth at the end of 6 months? We have to add them together because he started with 6,000 as an investment and he made 210. Add them together and you'll get 6,210. So that is going to be our final answer. Question 5 says, sometimes you're given different information and you must solve for the missing pieces. Let me show you an example right here. If we take the equation that we're using for today and we plug in what we know, we have to solve for what we don't know. So an $800 deposit, that means that's your principal, for 24 months. So I'm going to plug in 800 for P. Let's see if they give us a rate. They do give us the time, 24 months. Well, what is 24 months in terms of years? Because we said time always has to be measured in years. Well, that's 2 years. So I'm going to times by 2 years. But what I see here is that they're not giving me the rate. They're not giving me any like percent that I need to times by. So I'm just going to leave R right there. And then they say it earned $200 in interest. So they're actually giving us I. We have to plug in 200. Okay, now we need to solve our equation. Here's what I have. You'll notice we don't have R, so we just need to solve for what we do know. I do know that 800 times 2 will give me 1600. And then I'm just going to leave the R there. Next step is we have to solve for R and get it all by itself. So the opposite of timesing, because you'll notice 1600 is being times by the R. We need to get 1600 by itself. The opposite of timesing is dividing. So if we divide both sides by 1600, what that does is it helps us get R by itself. This is your two-step equation that we've been learning about all year. 1600 divided by 1600 is 1. So this just goes away. It creates an invisible 1. And 200 divided by 1600 will give us the answer for R. So that gives us, let's see, I got to type this in my calculator so I can show you, and then we'll convert it to a percentage. 200 divided by 1600 gives me 0.125 for R. I'm going to say R equals 0.125. Well, a rate is a percentage. So I'm going to take my decimal and move it 2 places to the right. So here's what I have. 12.5%, because I just converted that to a percentage. Now, what is the total value? That means we have to add our money together now. We had an $800 deposit. We earned $200 from the interest. The total value is 800 plus 200, so that's going to give us $1,000. All right, now we're on to question 6, which says a $1,595 deposit for 10 years. So this is in terms of years. That's good. So we can just times by 10 at a simple interest rate of 8%. Well, 8% converted to a decimal, you just move your decimal 2 places to the left. And I got 0.08. So I'm going to times by 0.08. That will just give us our interest. So if you typed all that into your calculator, 1595 times 10 times 0.08, you would get your interest of $1,276. Now, total value means we have to add our two prices together. So let's add $1,595 plus $1,276. That gives us a total value of $2,871. Okay, question number 7 says, a deposit earns $102 after 36 months at a simple interest rate of 5%. Let's use our equation. Interest equals the principal times the rate times the time in terms of years. So a deposit earns $102 after. What that's telling us is somebody's putting some money in, but we don't know how much. So nobody gave us what P is. We don't know what that is. But we do know that over time, the interest you earn is $102. So I'm going to plug $102 in for I. After 36 months, wait a second, we talked about how time is in terms of years in this equation. So we know that there's 12 months in a year. What's 36 divided by 12? That gives us 3. So our time is 3 years. I'm going to put that right here underneath T. And then it says at a simple interest rate of 5%. Well, 5% in a decimal is 0.05. So I'm going to times all of these together. 0.05 times 3 times P. Sorry if you can't read that. It says 102 equals P times 0.05 times 3. Well, let's simplify what we have and solve for what we don't have. 0.05 times 3 gives me 0.15. So here's what I have now. 0.15p is equal to 102. Now we have to solve this like we would a normal two-step equation. We got to get p all by itself. P is being multiplied by 0.15, so we have to do the opposite of multiply. Oh no, how did that even happen? The opposite of multiply is divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 0.15. And 102 divided by 0.15 gives me 680. So P was the only variable we had left. So that tells us our principal and the amount of time that we had it sitting there for is going to earn us, or for the principal, that means we deposited $680. So I'm going to write 680 in the space right here. What's our total value? $680 plus $102. That's going to give us $782. And once again, all I did was add up $680 plus my interest, which was 102. And that gave me this answer right here. Okay, question number 8. Reese made a deposit into an account that earns 8% simple interest. So that's 0.08 in a decimal. After 8 years, so let's times by 8 years, Reese had earned $400. That is the interest earned. How much was Reese's initial deposit? So we don't know what the principal was. So here's what we have so far with the equation. Interest equals principal times rate times time in terms of years. The principal, they didn't give us one. The rate was 8% or 0.08 and the time was 8 years. The interest was $400. That's how we got everything that we got. Now the next step is we need to solve for P. So let's do 0.08 times 8. I'm typing this in my calculator right now and I got 0.64. And so the next step is we have to get the principal or P all by itself. Let's divide both sides by 0.64. 400 divided by 0.64 gives us 625. So what this means is P, or our principal, would be $625. Okay, question number 9. Jude deposited $550 into an account that earns simple interest, and after 11 years, the interest in the account was $484. What was the simple interest rate? So we're going to use our equation once again. The interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. The principal that was deposited was $550. The rate, it looks like we don't have a rate, but we do have time. The time was 11 years. So I'm going to times by 11 years, and I'm just going to leave R for rate. And it looks like the interest was $484. Now let's go ahead and solve for what we do know. What is 550 times 11? And that gives me 6,050. And then we just have to leave R there. And next step, we have to get R all by itself. So the opposite of timesing is divide. Let's divide both sides by 6,050. 484 divided by 6,050 gives me 0.08. Well, if R equals 0.08, what is that in a percentage? Take your decimal and move it 2 places to the right. So R equals 8%. That is the rate. I'm going to write that right up here. And then I'm going to erase all my work down here so I can write something new. So question 10, and I'll erase this, says, explain the benefit of investing your money into an account that earns simple interest. So one of the benefits is, and I'll just read this out loud to you first and then I'll write it all down. When you invest your money into an account with simple interest, you earn extra money or interest and it grows over time. That's so cool. However, the value of money in the piggy bank will not increase as time passes. So that is why investing your money into an account is awesome, because you get simple interest. So I'll write all this out. That's it for the video though. If you have questions, please just send me or Mrs. Morris an email. So I'm going to say, when you invest your money into an account, and by the way, I would be taking notes of this because you will be able to use them in the future, which is awesome. When you invest your money into an account with simple interest, and I'm going to kind of shorten some things if I can, it will earn you additional money, or like extra money, which is so cool. And I'm going to say that grows over time. And it grows over time. However, the value of the money in the piggy bank will not increase as time passes. So that's why investing your money into account is awesome. Okay, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions, just shoot us an email, or we can meet over Google Meets or do a video thing. So let me know. Thanks.